What's up, y'all? I'm Black Talent Sport, and in today's video we're going to be talking about a new motor that's coming out sometime really soon. It's already in production, made by a company called Stellantis, and the new engine is called Hurrican. It's going to be available in a few manufacturers. We're going to discuss it today. Right, we're going to look at the engine, we're going to look at the specs and the cars that this new motor will be coming in. Something a little bit different for the channel, but I figured, you know, this motor is going to come out, so I figured it'd be a good idea to make this video. So that's what today's video is going to be. So you want to stick around for the discussion about this new Hurrican motor. But first, I want to remind you guys, before we go any further, please continue to smash that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell, make sure it's on all so that you get notified when I come out with these videos. I greatly appreciate it. Alright, so today we're doing something just a little bit different for the channel. You know, when my favorite engine configuration is a straight 6 turbo, and when I saw this article that Car and Driver did on this engine that's coming out, man, my antennas went up. I said, yo, this could be the next big thing, and it's actually something that I'm interested in. So I figured I'd do this video, and so we could look over the specs of the motor and, you know, see what it's coming in. So why don't we go ahead and do that right now. Also, I want to remind you guys, I did this 1K subscriber hoodie through my Teespring listing. It is actually available. I want to say congrats to Gabriel, for he was the winner in my 1,000 subscriber giveaway that I did some time ago. So congrats to you. But for the rest of you, if you would like to purchase this hoodie that I'm wearing, I'll provide either a link to that video, or the link for the Teespring listing can be found in either the description of this video or in my cover photo. Alright, so why don't we go right ahead and start looking at this article that Car and Driver did on this new Stellantis Hurrican engine. Alright, so right here at the top of the article, it says here, Stellantis goes 6 in a row with a twin turbo inline 6 engine. That is the headline that grabbed my attention immediately. And then you look at the picture of this thing, which I'll get into a little bit, but a very quick picture of the motor, and it looks very familiar. So we're going to talk about that. You know, I really feel like they're they're kind of like in direct competition with BMW with the B58. So let's look at the article. It's a very nicely written article here. It says Stellantis all new twin turbocharged 3.0 liter inline 6 called the Hurrican should find its way under the hood of various models for the 2023 model year, potentially from the Jeep Wrangler to the Ram 1500 and the Dodge Charger and Challenger. That is very interesting that those are the cars that this motor is going to potentially be available in. Going to be offered in standard output and high output variants, and it will fit into any vehicle currently sold that is also longitudinal engine, that has a longitudinal engine, which is, you know, the long way rear wheel drive bias. Production has already begun at Stellantis Stelio South engine plant in Mexico. So this engine is not just a rumor, it's actually happening. It's currently in production, and at that plant in Mexico. All right, and if you go a little bit down in the article, it gives a lot of the specs of the engine. It says here, vehicles currently sold that has longitudinal engine with Hurrican arrives under the hood of various Stellantis brand vehicles within the next year. The double overhead cam, listen to this, it has a double overhead cam, direct injected inline 6, will have a bore and stroke measurement about 84 millimeters and 90 millimeters. That's the bore and stroke. That's a pretty squarish style of bore and stroke. The block and cylinder head are constructed of aluminum and its cylinders are spray bored using a plasma transfer wire arc process that adds a thin iron coating to the cylinder walls, which Stellantis claims saves 3 pounds versus using a more traditional iron sleeve. Now, we've seen this type of technology before used in BMW's B58 and S58 engines. It's very strong, it's a very good idea, but it's just striking to me that they use very similar specs and technology comparable to the B58, of which the article does mention that in a little bit later. The bore and stroke figures are identical, see, to the BMW's potent S58 3.0 inline 6 that powers the M brands, and also follows the same approach of having each turbo fed by 3 cylinders to minimize turbo lag. The Hurrican will be offered in standard output and in high output variants. Now, to me, this is why I say that they seem to be in direct competition with BMW's B58 and S58 motors. I mean, even if you get a quick glance of the engine, it definitely looks very similar. Stellantis says the standard output engine will deliver more than 400 horsepower. That's pretty good. I don't care what anybody says. And 400 foot-pound of torque, with the final output figures to be determined by the individual branch utilizing the new mill. So manufacturers will be able to decide what their output would be, which is cool. The latest power version has a 10.4 to 1 compression ratio, and its intake charge is pressurized by the twin turbo with up to 22.4 pounds of boost. That's a lot of boost, but it's direct injected, so it's expected. Being chilled by a water to air intercooler, same setup as the B58 and the VR guys, the VR 30s. The Junior 3.0 will rev to 5,800 RPM and operate on 87 octane, though 91 is recommended. So it's not going to really rev too high. Very interesting that they have it not revving so high. But hey, if it gets up to the power and the torque numbers, those are pretty good. 400 horsepower, 450 foot-pounds of torque. That's a pretty stout engine. Moving on to the high output version of this Hurricane motor. The high output version is set to deliver more than 500 horsepower and 470 foot-pound of torque of twist, putting it on par, again, they reference BMW, on par with the BMW's strongest 6-cylinder offering. The compression ratio is lowered to 9.5 to 1. You know what that means, right? More boost, as it clearly states. Accommodated a 26 PSI boost delivered from the larger turbo, so the high output version has larger turbos as well, through a dual inlet. All right, the high output engine features its own cylinder head, crankshaft, larger water to air intercooler, and forged aluminum pistons versus the standard output's cast pieces. So that's a very big difference there. The high output version has stronger internals. Yeah, they're talking about using forged internals. That's pretty good there, man. I'm telling you, the more and more information and details that come out about this engine, the more excited I get. Especially in comparison to the S58. All right, so the high output motor will rev to 6,100 RPMs, although well off the glorious 7,200 RPM whale of BMW's straight 6. To generate all this wonderful power, 91 octane will be required. I don't know where you live, but here we have 93. So I'm very curious as to how this high output version will run off 93. And also, hey, E85, you E85 guys, I'm pretty sure that you'll be making even more power. These engines could be used from a number of Stellantis produced, such as, oh wait, you know what, before we go into that, there was one piece of information missing here that I was waiting to see. And that basically details if this is a closed deck or an open deck block, because that is very important. The B58, S58 and S58 are closed deck blocks. That's why those stock blocks can handle so much power. It's because of that closed deck. But they didn't mention that. So as more details come out about this engine, I would love to know what are the characteristics of the block. Is it an open deck or is it a closed deck? Hopefully we'll find out in the near future. So moving on, these engines could be used from a number of Stellantis products such as Jeep, Gladiator, the Grand Cherokee, Wagoneer, Grand Wagoneer, and Wrangler, which shows a lot of the Jeep vehicles. So for the Ram, they're going to be this engine is going to be powered by it's going to come available in the Ram 1500 and 2500, and the Dodge Challenger and Charger. If we were to speculate, and the article here is speculate, which is the same feeling that I have, and some information that was out there previously, is this motor could easily be available in, you know, the Charger. Think about if they got rid of the V8 Hemis because of all this EV talk, and you know, getting rid of all the V8s, putting in this particular Hurricane motor in the Chargers and the Challengers, you know, instead of the V8 Hemis. For me, that would be a very exciting thing. I would love to see it available in those vehicles. And basically going to be replacing the Pentastar 3.6 liter V6 built by Stellantis. So that V6 motor is, that Pentastar V6 is built by Stellantis. So this would be an excellent replacement. Now, some of the cars that I would personally like to see this engine come available in is, you know, like I said, I would like to see the Charger, maybe the Challenger, but I would also like to see it available in a Camaro or an SUV, a sporty SUV. Hey, maybe like a Blazer. Could you imagine if a Blazer came with this twin turbo inline 6 Hurricane motor? That would make it a little more appealing to me and a broader range of people. And I really feel like whatever vehicle that this particular motor becomes available in is very important. If they offered it in vehicles that are more attracted to either younger buyers or people that are interested in sports cars, this could be the next best thing. I really feel like this engine will be a really good competitor for the B58. You know, you BMW fanboys, I'm not trying to upset you guys, but there are very close similarities between the Hurricane motor and the B58 and S58 platform. So it'd be good to see those two motors go head to head in a few cars. Wouldn't you agree? Let me know in the comments below. What is your impression? What is your feeling about Stellantis offering this new Hurricane motor, and how will it compare against some of the current competitors? All right, so let us now dive into what we can see just by looking at this motor. I'm not just looking at this as the enthusiast standpoint, but I used to work on cars. So, you know, I used to be a service tech. So I also look at things like this when a new engine comes out from the perspective of the service technician that has to work on these things. So being that I also am an enthusiast, you know, do some little, some DIY projects, I tend to look at, okay, what can I do? What can we change? Or, you know, what sort of products do I think will be available based on what I can see by looking at the engine. So why don't we go ahead and look at the engine at this moment. All right, at first glance here, looking at this engine, what do we see? Over here, you can see that that's the water to air intercooler. It has that dual inlet there. And that's coming from the turbos on the other side, which is, you can see the charge pipe right there. So the intake is on this side. This is where I believe that's the throttle body. It's like it's a drive-by-wire. Now also, this looks like a complete rat's nest, just like the B58. I don't know why manufacturers are designing their engines like this to look like that. But you know, this is just the obvious, that water to air intercooler. Obviously that comes from the turbos into it, and the flow is this way. It comes into the intake. This right here, that looks like some sort of blow-off valve. That looks like some sort of blow-off valve to me. Maybe it's a recirculation valve, it's like it's directly connected to the intercooler, or I can't tell if it's connected to the pipe or the intercooler directly, but that little port right there looks like some sort of blow-off valve. This is the charge pipe, which is what, silicone? It's pretty decent. You got your oil filter right there. Hopefully that's in a great location, but it's on the bottom. The alternator's right there. You got your crank, of course. Nice serpentine belt, really nice tight orientation. AC compressor, water pump, looks like it's on the exterior right there. And here, it's very important here. Looks like it has, well, it does have dual overhead cam, we know that. It was like some sort of variable valve timing system, I would imagine. And I don't think you will be able to change any cam gears on that. So probably the cams, you probably won't even be able to get cams for this thing. So it probably will be controllable through timing. That's why it has these plugs on here. Yeah, there's some sort of variable valve timing system, obviously, in effect right there. And let's see, what else can we see from this side? Like there's a lot of plastic being used. This is the intake manifold. Like probably has some sort of chambers because that flow is going to come up and then down. This is one of the runners you can see right there. Now, what else I found is very interesting, maybe even somewhat comical. Let's let me scroll up here. Is the oil filler neck, which might be a little telling. This here, that tube, here's the top of the cap, and that's a tube, and that's the top of the valve cover. That probably will suggest that this particular variant of the Hurricane motor is in a tall vehicle. Maybe this is from a Ram 1500. Anything that's kind of tall, so that, you know, the engine sits low, but, you know, they made this tube here so that you can pour in the motor. I brought that up because this is probably, like I said, one of the Hurricane motors that's going to be found in the 1500, the Ram 15 or 2500. You can see that the charge pipe comes from there, and it's going to go over somehow. I would love to see how the airbox is going to fit. The airbox is probably going to be somewhere in this area, similarly to the B58. I'd love to see it with the engine cover off, but, you know, not too many photos. There's one other photo available of the other side. So why don't we go right ahead and flip over to the other side. And here it is. Now, this side of the engine is very important because this side should hold where the turbos are. There, we know that there are two turbos. This is the twin turbo inline 6, so we should be able to see a little something, right? Well, let's look at this. If you scroll in a little bit closer, it's very hard to see where the turbos are. We know that there are two here, but again, got like a little bit of a rat's nest. But if we follow the charge pipes, you should be able to figure out at least the position of them. This looks like, this is the charge pipe from the other side, and it looks like it's split. So there's a split right here, one going right there, and the other one obviously comes down to right there. These turbos look pretty small. We can see here some Inconel material, so we know that that's the hot side, and it looks like it has a V-band connection for the downpipe, but I only see one. This here doesn't look, maybe it is, doesn't look like the where the connection for the downpipe to go unlike that. So, you know, these turbos are hitting by quite a few things. I mean, we can see some oil feed and return lines. It's like another line that goes up, but, you know, they don't make it easy for us here. These turbos look really small, and, you know, it's not much information out there about the turbos yet. This looks like a high pressure fuel rail of some sort. I can definitely see that it has electronic wastegates. There's one right there, and it looks like the other one should be somewhere here. But again, you know, you can't really see much, but there's a lot of space in here. All in this area, there's a lot of space, it looks like. That's like the bell housing where the transmission will go. So it looks like there's a lot of potential for this motor. But there's a lot of plastic here as well. Looking at this even there, it's like some sort of harness passed through. The engine looks kind of big as well, to me at least. Yeah, it looks rather wide. But exciting nonetheless. You know, there really isn't much that we can see other than these charge pipes and this whole turbo arrangement. Very curious. We know that it's split between the three per cylinder, but I'm curious as to if it's running like similarly to the 2JZ, where it's a sequential setup, where one comes on and then the other one comes on. Not necessarily a compound setup, but sequential. But in order for that to happen, one turbo would need to be bigger than the other. And there's no mention of them having a sequential setup. But I'm definitely interested in this motor. Very happy to be that it's available. It's coming out rather, and very interested into seeing what else. I'm very curious as to what manufacturers, if any, will jump on board with making parts for this. You know, either full bolt-ons, or maybe they'll go right into the motor with turbos and so forth and so on. E85 flex kits, whatever. It's very exciting. It's just a new platform for enthusiasts to be dabbing into, and should be good for the industry as well. So that's a look at this motor. Well, alright, that's going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you guys again for watching. Please continue to stay tuned to the channel by subscribing if you would like to, liking the videos, and make your video suggestions in the comments below. Also, if you would like for me to continue making videos like this where new motors or new cars coming out, please let me know in the comments below as well. Just something new I've decided to throw into the mix of the content on my channel, because I actually do like this kind of thing. I love talking about motors and the specs and so forth and so on. So let me know in the comments below if this is something you would like to continue to see on my channel. Alright? So I want you guys to remember to please have a blessed day and peace out.